On this episode of the Neil Wilkins podcast, I'm delighted to welcome Larry Easto. Now, Larry has over 40 years of experience in providing professional services as a lawyer, consultant, writer, trainer, and coach. If anyone is well qualified with 30 books, ebooks, and video courses since 1993 to share with us some practical strategies for professional and business growth, then it is certainly Larry. Welcome to the show, Larry.
Thank you. With a with an introduction like that, wow! I think I want to listen to myself.
We've set the bar high here. We
We
really
have,
have. And
we
I
have.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, I have great expectations here, but no pressure. Absolutely no
Oh,
pressure at
none
all.
whatsoever.
So just really to kind of to set things up here and to kind of begin things, obviously with, you and I both know that we're seeing a lot of changes in the marketplace and have done for, I guess, a number of years. And these are fundamentally impacting how individuals and businesses go to market. What are the kind of key things that you'd say you're seeing currently?
Um, well, I'm seeing all sorts of things, but I think that the factor that concerns me most is that a lot of really talented and good professionals, self-employed professionals, are forgetting about their best stuff and somehow buying into the idea that they should be doing this or they should be doing that or they should be doing something else. They're and we're all exposed to so much information from so many experts, some of whom really are experts and others are self-made, that it's I think the real us is being lost in the shuffle. When I think back to when I first started, this was when I was practicing law. It was all about personal relationships. I mean, we didn't have fancy marketing programs. We didn't do it. Law Society wouldn't let us advertise. So the only way to get business was to build personal relationships. Now, anybody seems to be able to call themselves an expert, regardless of their qualifications. And there's all sorts of new bells and whistles to make them look and sound and appear even better. But unfortunately, the real quality of people of professionals as individuals seems to be being lost or ignored in the rush to be the latest this or the greatest that or the biggest something else.
It's interesting when you use the word rush there, because it does feel that, obviously, as we know, when you look at things, economic cycles, and I always quote Kondratiev cycles, which is this ever decreasing timescale of these kind of loops that we all go through and always have done. It just feels though you can actually, it's something that you can kind of taste and feel the speed of change, the speed of progress, the changing, or the revolution of things. It's not even an evolution of things now. There just doesn't seem to be time for anything. Do you think that rushing is one of the key causes here?
I don't know whether it's a cause or I don't know whether it's an effect. It's really hard to say. But you're right. It's just the whole rush to. I'm reminded of my very first job evaluation with my very first full-time job, and my supervisor said, "Larry, you're doing great work, but you got to learn some patience." And I said, "Patience? How do I learn patience?" And he said, "Well, maybe you should pray for it." So I'm thinking, okay, God, give me patience, and right now. So I think we want things done faster. We want better results yesterday. We don't really want to put the time and effort into doing what it was. And I was guilty of that as the next person. I'm working on a video course now, and I want it done. I want it done. I'm tired of recording. I want it done. So there's so much we want to do that we find ourselves either prioritizing or short circuiting or taking shortcuts or whatever. And that's unfortunate because so much of professional service is based on the relationship between the service provider and the client. And if that relationship is rushed, there isn't the same kind of quality of service. You got to get this over because I've got somebody else coming in, all that kind of thing. So there isn't the care and attention. So yeah, it is a temper of the time. It's the rush kind of thing that we've got so many things we want to do, and we don't want to take time to let things unfold or trust the process. So yeah, I think it's part of the way we do things, part of who we are. Just the instant result, the instant action, rather than let some things take the course.
With that kind of the way you've just described it there, it just reminds me of this whole kind of, I guess, focus on outcomes. It feels that the outcome for every scenario, be it a large organization, micro business, solo entrepreneur, solo practitioner, it's all about the outcomes. We're kind of driven to getting the results, getting the the check, or getting the the numbers in our social media following, or whatever it is that is a key performance indicator for us personally or professionally. But I think what we're kind of probably agreeing here, Larry, is the fact that actually the journey to that is at least as important as the outcome, because you can't kind of learn anything if all you're doing is focusing on the end result, can you?
Oh, exactly, exactly. And I think that's a good point. I think that sometimes the answer is obvious. Sometimes in a conversation with a client, it's immediately obvious what the correct solution is. But through experience, I've learned that even though I may have what I think is the right answer, hold off, because there may be maybe I don't have enough information, or maybe, yeah, maybe I haven't asked the right questions, or maybe the client is still trying to get a handle on whether you can trust me or not. So sometimes in our rush to get to the ultimate result, we miss key questions. Another story. I had a client one time who, this was a rural Ontario farmer, and he came in, he was all upset about an issue with his neighbor. So he started to describe the situation. And within like the first couple of minutes, I was 26. So, I was a young lawyer and I knew all the answers to all the questions. And within a couple of minutes, I had the answer to the solution, but out of courtesy, I let him talk. And when he finished, I told him what his solution would be. And he looked at me and he said, "Well, you got the facts right, but that ain't what I want." And I said, "Well, what do you want?" And all he really wanted was an apology. But I was so rushed. I was in such a rush to give him the answer, to show off. I don't know, in a rush to help him, that I wasn't listening to him, and I missed some key information there. And I think that happens a lot of times in our rush to get the ultimate result. We miss some things, and we also miss some pretty exciting learning opportunities. I'm a huge fan of experiential learner, and if we're rushing through things, we don't have time to really take a look at what happened and what can I learn from there. What's the important takeaway? It's more than just the desired outcome. It's what can we learn in this process, the process that maybe we can apply down the road. So yeah, it's getting there is as important as the end result.
Yeah, it's an interesting little dichotomy, isn't it, really? Because if you are talking maybe to a new client, let's just say that you've got this new customer and you want to impress, and you've been kind of almost selling the idea that it's not about the time I spend on your account or your particular challenge or project, it's about the value of the outcome. So if you're super, super experienced, you can probably, as you said there, Larry, cut through to the core of the issue and actually identify a solution that may well work, may well deliver the result that you need. But actually, it's almost this dichotomy of, okay, that's the one hand, and because of course then the return on investment in that money for both you spending time working with that client is incredible, because you haven't had to spend a huge amount of time to get to a great outcome. But actually what you've missed by doing that is that moment of reflection, is those conversations, is that deepest kind of searching, which of course takes time. So by the way that we're measuring success, it actually looks less successful than just that instant result. We're really between a rock and a hard place here, aren't we? This is actually going to be quite difficult to solve because of the way we've almost trained ourselves to get into professional relationships.
It's true. I think that, and I guess, at this stage in my life, having had as many experiences, good, bad, and different as I have, I've got lots of opportunities to draw on things. I think that there is so much more in dealing with clients. There is so much more than just delivering the result they want. Sometimes, this is the man I was talking about. There was the one level, the dispute with a neighbor that he wanted a result, but he wanted an apology. Well, so he felt hurt. He felt offended. He personally, personally embarrassed or frustrated or whatever. So there is the personal element that isn't being addressed there. And secondly, for me as a lawyer at the time, I missed a golden opportunity to demonstrate what a great listener I am, give clients a chance to talk, so that he could go and tell other people, hey, yeah, you have got a problem, go talk to Larry, because he really listens. So I think that it's in the rush to results. We're shortchanging clients. We're shortchanging ourselves. We don't always demonstrate our best side when we're in a hurry. We don't always give clients the attention they deserve and they want. Um, I did among the life learning I've had is a lot of experiential training and facilitation. And one of the rules of a good facilitator is that you only hear your own voice 20% of the time. And I think that's a good rule of thumb for professionals. Just okay, we may have the answer, but let's let the clients talk. Let's build a relationship. And who knows? There may be other issues there that the client's not aware of that we could help them with. So it may be an opportunity to deliver more service. It may be an opportunity to build a relationship with somebody who sends us a lot of business. So it's more than just getting to where we want to be as soon as possible. It's just pursuing, just allowing the time and the space for whatever other value added benefits may pop up during the conversation. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
I love the sound of that. I really do. And I think for me, the way you very eloquently kind of described that is it's almost there's a number of steps that as a professional in conversation with a client is almost a number of steps you have to go through. So would it be appropriate, do you think, and I'm thinking kind of out loud here as I speak, would it be appropriate to be saying something like, okay, I feel that from what you've described to me, how you've briefed me and the kind of challenges that you face, I feel like I have one answer for you that could be the solution. But would you give me permission to try and go a little bit deeper here so that we might uncover something even more powerful or something in addition? It's almost asking for that, yeah, that permission to build the relationship, isn't it? Rather than just, hey, I'm the consultant, I'm the professional here, I'm going to give you the answer and we'll move on. It's actually asking for permission in a true conversation, isn't it?
It it is exactly, and it's more than asking for permission. It's inviting the client to take an active role in the problem solving rather than just sit and listen to what I have to say. It it gives the client the opportunity to offer suggestions of his her own as to what the ideal solution might be. Um, it just I one of my inviolable rules, one of the rules I will not change is I will not take responsibility for other people's actions. So quite often clients would say, well, what should I do? And I'd say, well, I'm not telling you what you should do. There's all these other actions there. I mean, basically, it's your responsibility. And if I'm quite honestly, I find myself thinking, I would never be in that situation anyway. But anyway, that's a different point. I think clients deserve the opportunity to take responsibility for their own clients. And sure, there are some clients who want somebody to tell them what to do, and that's perfect because if it doesn't go right, they can blame somebody else. But I think that by asking permission to share some other ideas, it opens the door for clients to serve their own problems. So instead of being an instructor or a director or an advisor, we're more of a facilitator, asking the questions that clients have not thought to ask themselves. And when we ask those kinds of questions, we help them come up with their own answers. And when they come up with their own, invariably, when clients come up with their own solutions as guided by a professional, they tend to be better, they're happier with it, and they're happy with the service from the professional, although they may not realize the value of the facilitation. It's a combination of professional knowledge and facilitation. So it's yeah, asking for permission to offer some alternatives opens so many really exciting doors. It's good idea. Good idea. I have to try that.
And when we kind of sort of go down that path, I'm guessing again, I'm just trying to sort of think forward about what would happen then. Actually, if I did that, because it sounds great, Neil and Larry talking about all these wonderful things, but in practice, would that actually work? And the first kind of little question mark that came into my head as you were talking back at me there was, Okay, and I have actually seen this on a small number, to be fair, a small number of occasions in my own work with my own clients or prospects at the time, where they've said, okay, I hear what you're saying. Interesting first response. Yeah, you want to get into conversation, you want to build some stuff with me. If we're going to go forward with this, though, Neil, what I want you to do is kind of almost be with a lowercase p in partnership with me. In other words, you're going to share in the upside, but you're also going to share in the risk, because I, as a client, don't want to take full responsibility for this. Maybe it's because I don't fully believe in it, or maybe it's because I don't really understand it. What's your view, Larry, on kind of almost like a, let's call it a, in very loose terms, a profit share with recommendations? Because if you're saying, the client has to take accountability here, is it a step too far to say you'd be willing to kind of go in with okay, we're going to share the risk together?
Ouch, that's a toughie. One of the things that quite often frustrated me when working with the clients, that I'd help them with on one matter or another, and the fee may have been, well, take a discussion, maybe $1,000 or €1,000 or whatever currency. And as a result of my intervention, my advice, my input, they wound up making $50,000. Like, maybe I should have had a bigger share of that. The flip side is, if the situation doesn't work out, would I be prepared to reduce my fees? I don't think so. I don't think so. What I have done, and this again, I'm thinking out loud here. What I have done, if in situations where clients haven't been happy, I've taken a position that I will do anything short of a full refund to make this right. Because once you've delivered personal services or professional services, you can't take them back. There's time spent, and more often than not, the client gets some value for the service. So it may be a case of offering additional services at no cost, or something to help address it. So I have a in theory, I like it. I'm just not too sure how it would work. I mean, professional services are like toothpaste. Once it's out of the tube, you can't put it back in. And more often than not, clients receive benefits that they will receive benefits that they can use in the future. So I think, as a professional, I'm entitled to be compensated for that. If my advice is faulty, I should take full responsibility for that and take whatever action is necessary to make it right. If the client messes up and doesn't follow the advice, I don't want to be stuck with that issue. That's not my problem. If the client again wants me to share the responsibility but doesn't take any action, I don't want to go there. Sure, I'll be a partner. I'm open to the collaborative approaches and open to some kind of a revenue share, but I've got to be satisfied that the client is honestly prepared to do her best, rather than just coast and I'm a guaranteed backup. So if I'm satisfied that a client is genuine and sincere and can do as promising, sure, I'd be open to that. I'm
I guess
always
it
open
comes.
to collaborative. I'm
Yeah,
always open to collaborative
for me, it
opportunities.
sounds like it's coming down to almost, to use a phrase, terms of engagement. I mean, it feels like that both parties have to be super clear. I mean, this is just good business practice, isn't it? To have some form of contract or a written agreement where it is
Oh,
absolutely watertight and clear what both parties are contributing, what the perceived value should be from those things, as long as there's no kind of failing, if you like, in sort of technical expertise. But it kind of almost gives that innate responsibility, no, that's not the right word, innate honesty between the two parties, doesn't it? Because without that, it is all still very open to interpretation, isn't it?
and as you were talking on a couple of other thoughts you could have made, I think that if it was a client, I'm thinking back to clients I've dealt with. If it was a client I had dealt with for years and years and years, and we had a solid relationship, and I knew him or her, and there was trust, there was mutual trust. By all means, if it was a new client that we hadn't really done anything together, I think I want to build a relationship first before I got into something a little bit out of the norm. And there again, raised another issue. It shows the importance of really qualifying clients. When we first start a business, an ideal client is anyone who needs our help and says they can pay. And that's the result of a lot of bad debts. So, we have to, it's important to do a lot of, qualifying clients to make sure not only are they going to pay our fees, but we're going to get along with them really well. As a professional, if I don't get along personally with my client, I can't do anything for them. I can't do anything with them. There's a personality conflict. It ain't going to happen. So we have to make sure the personal relationship was there and build on the personal relationship. And I would think that once there was a personal relationship, anything would be possible. But unless and until it's both of us walking very carefully to make sure we don't. I'm going to be going really careful to make sure I don't mess up, and I'm hoping that the client is going equally careful that they're not feeding me bad information or that they're being upfront with the situation. Now, I didn't, as a lawyer, I never did criminal work, so that made things a lot easier. But still, there were clients that it looked good on the surface, and I chose not to deal with because I didn't think I could get along with them. And there's other clients I couldn't do enough with because it was such a joy. I learned so much from them, and they generated so much fees for me, and so it's very much an individual kind of thing, and it comes back to for most of us who are serving clients. Sure, we have a standard package of services we can offer, but we always customize them to meet the needs of the individual service. Otherwise, it could be online. Otherwise, it could be done by somebody that doesn't have our training background. So yeah, it's interesting because going back to what we talked about earlier about being rushed. When you're rushed, you don't have time. You don't have time to even consider these alternatives because your brain is so fixed on getting done, getting the checklist done, getting the file closed, moving on. But when we have time, when there's time to reflect on the situation, there's no end of the opportunities. Time is the luxury, so we have to figure out how to make better use of our time.
Because ultimately that is the core commodity, isn't it? It's your time, the client's time, and then that shared time together in terms of getting best value for all parties, and also that relationship that sits in the middle there. Yeah, it's almost sort of making me think of that in a slightly different way now, that it's not a provider and a client here, or supplier kind of provider relationship. It is very much about this collaboration. I mean, partnership with a lowercase p kind of, for me, just continually comes back into this. And I think if it's viewed like that, then it isn't a kind of, there's no real, well, there shouldn't be, by the way you're describing it, Larry, a hierarchy here, because I think a lot of people going into these kind of sort of serving client sort of scenarios often feel that they're subservient to the client. One, because the client has the money to pay them. Two, because, well, I'm working for the client in this regard. And it's almost then it kind of sort of puts you into this, or locks you into this state. Whereas actually, I think what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is that this should be almost like a peer-to-peer relationship, because that's when the best value is going to appear and manifest, is when you can see yourself at the same sort of peer-to-peer level with the client, because one, then there's mutual respect. Two, then we're not going to get into those awkward kind of conversations where, well, I'm going to tell you how to do it and this is what you need to do, or I'm not getting the value here, because there will be that expectation that it's peer-to-peer throughout that relationship. Am I kind of reading that right?
Yeah, it's funny because I've, and not because of any inherent idealism, I've never really thought of my relationship with clients as hierarchical, more collaborative. I mean, certainly the clients that didn't have my financial resources, or I didn't have their financial resources. To me, it's always been a collaborative approach, and that's probably because I tend to be more facilitative than dictatorial or instructional. Certainly on a routine transaction like a real estate transaction or estate administration, that's pretty much checklist driven. And as long as you comply with the checklist, it'll be okay. But that's the kind of work I just like doing. That's the kind of work I gave to staff. I like doing work that only I could do. And when I say only I could do it, it meant that in addition to my professional training, I would bring in my personal skills, my personality, my feelings, my sensitivities, and all that kind of stuff. Bring it in. I can't pay for those, or I mean, I can't charge for those elements, but it's all part of the package. So when I bring all of me into dealing with a situation, I'm hoping that will encourage the client to bring all of him into the conversation. So when we're each of us are all in, it's not as if the client is better than me or vice versa. It's we're collaborating on addressing an issue using our combined resources to address the issue. Now, fortunately, most of the issues are fairly readily fairly readily resolved based on experience. But it's still really helpful to ask the questions to find out the experience of the clients, to find out if there's something they could do that they're not even thinking about. So I continue to see it as more of a collaborative approach. When I when I when I set my office up, sorry about the stories, but I find stories illustrate points fairly well. When I set my office up, I deliberately set that up so that when I met clients uh, around a dining room table, instead of a traditional lawyer's office with a lawyer behind a big desk, I set it up so that we had a really nice dining room table with a dining room cabinet and dining room chairs and all that kind of thing. And I wanted it to be visiting a friend. I wanted meetings with clients to be conversations over a dining table rather than a lawyer or a professional sitting behind his chair looking down and pontificating. The downside was clients would periodically say, "Gee, Larry, you don't act like a lawyer." And I'd be, "Oh, what have I done wrong? What am I doing wrong?" But that would trigger the conversation of, "Okay, I'm a human being with some legal skills, and this is what I'm doing, and I don't need a lawyer's desk to practice law. I don't need all the trappings to give you the advice, to give you the help." So for me, it was kind of demystifying the arrangement, um, making it more of, as I say, more of friends talking over the dining room table than a meeting with a lawyer or a lawyer consultation or any of that other stuff. So from that perspective, to me, any dealings with clients, um, whenever possible, has been more collaborative than dictatorial or instructional.
Mm. It's really interesting, just this whole thing that keeps, rearing its head again is this quality of the relationship. I think, it's obviously been a mantra for you, throughout your career, Larry. And I think, it's coming through loud and clear, just the importance of the quality of that listening and sharing, collaboration, the relationship, the real you bringing, the real client kind of out of themselves and just opening up and offering up that chance to, yeah, engage as human beings. And I think a lot of this tends to get lost. And I've seen a huge trend through my career, which has been obviously towards, the whole digital sphere. Because, when I started out, much like you, Larry, there weren't even computers on, the tables and stuff. So we weren't even talking about digital communication. Whereas now, when you look at things like LinkedIn, where, a lot of people would be saying, well, I get all my business through LinkedIn. It's all about online networking, etc., etc. Where do you feel that, certainly some of these, let's call them the old values of literally eyeballing a prospect or a client, particularly I'm thinking here for, guiding and advising here the fee earners in any firm, is kind of, it almost feels like that's a little bit lost in a digital sense. Do you think there are certain things that we can still do as humans, but from a digital perspective? Because the whole digital thing is not going to go away, we know that. But are there certain characteristics or certain approaches we can still take that brings through that kind of human centricness, if you like, to the offer, but through digital?
That's a good question. Um, it seems to me that all business is about relationship. Um, and in a small professional service business, it's the relationship between the service provider and the client, the personal relationship, because that's how it is. Personal and professional kind of blends in. But even in a large multinational corporation or something like LinkedIn or Facebook or X or whatever it's called now, I think there's a relationship component there. People don't really recognize it, but I think it's there. For example, there are Apple fans and there are DOS fans. There are people who like Pepsi, people who like Coke. So that's a relationship with the brand. And it seems to me that this is called Larry thinking out loud. Be afraid, be very afraid. It seems to me that what distinguishes one professional from another professional is is his or her unique qualifications, his or her unique combination of skills, resources, talents, whatever we bring to the table with clients. And that has to be real. It has to be authentic. So in order for us to really attract and build strong personal relationships with clients, we really have to be ourselves. We have to be totally, truly, and completely ourselves. So to attract clients that will be perfect for us, we have to somehow get the message to these clients that this is who I am. And if you like me, I'd love to help you. And if you don't like me, maybe I'm not the right person for you. It's kind of risky putting ourselves out there. And if we put ourselves out there as providing a service and people don't buy our stuff, buy our product, it's kind of scary because we get nervous and self-esteem and all that kind of stuff goes. But at the end of the day, it's all about relationship. And even with technology, I'm not a big techie, as you noticed earlier from my problem with the screen. I'm not a big techie, but when I'm dealing with technology, there's some organizations I can trust. I know that if I am totally incompetent and do something, they will help me. They will help me get out of my situation without me feeling like a real idiot. They will treat me with respect, they will treat me with care, and they will do what they can to help me. So I think the same thing that in communicating online through LinkedIn or anything else, instead of resorting to the latest buzzwords or instead of resorting to the latest formula, it would be communicating as if you were communicating with your best friend. Yeah, maybe not the jargon and maybe not the in-words and all that kind of stuff, but the honest, open, unhyped, no nonsense kind of communication we have with our friends and colleagues and trusted advisors, trusted people we deal with. So it seems to me that one of the best ways to deal with the depersonalization effect of technology is just to really work harder at being more authentic and make marketing more authentic, make communications more authentic. Not cloyingly sweet and yucky, but honest and open. And that includes apologizing for mistakes when we mess up. So it seems to me that given the complexity of the technological age, just by saying, okay, that's way out there, and I'll use it when I can. But the number one thing for me is to be my true best self in dealing with this client. And what do I do in order to be my true best self? What do I not do? What am I doing that is inconsistent with my true best self? So I think that's the starting point. Maybe it's a case of know thyself and to thine own self be true. That instead of trying to be all things to all people, we we interact on a very personal, honest, authentic level. And that's what always that's what I try to do. A number of years ago, I was doing some work and I saw a webinar that I thought would help me, and it was a marketing webinar, and it was so full of hype and baloney and lies. I just so put off by it. And I thought, why can't marketing be more authentic? So I really sat down and thought it through. And I thought, well, it can. So this would be late 2018, 2019, somewhere around in there. I made a conscious shift that my anything I did in marketing was going to be 100% me, and if it wasn't 100% me, I wasn't going to do it. And it's worked. It's really worked. May not work for everybody, but it seems to me that's a starting point to offset the rushing fast movement that we were talking about earlier. Just one other point, and then I'll slow down for a bit. I'm an introvert. Among the things I loved about COVID was that I didn't have to go out. I could be alone. I could be by myself. And since then, I've continued to value those alone periods of time. Late during the pandemic, we moved from the suburbs of Toronto to not near the downtown area. Fortunately, we're in a very nice area. There's a ravine out behind me, lots of nature. I connect with nature really well. So sometimes when I I get overwrought by one problem or another. If I just go and sit on the patio, the situation seems to resolve it. So maybe it's a case of putting less faith in technology or less faith in the latest bells and whistles and more faith in our true best self. Is that too idealistic, or is there something of value there?
Oh, for me, I think there's so much of value there, and I think that ultimately is us, as you say, coming back to ourselves. And I think it's just really interesting when you kind of think about how that might play out for everybody listening and watching this. And if you're thinking, there's something in this, I'd love to explore this, but I've got this this client I need to address and talk to, and maybe it's a little bit challenging, and maybe there's a little vulnerability also in here that I'm feeling towards this. What would your view be, Larry, in terms of almost admitting that you're going to need to upskill in a particular area? Because to get to the heart of the challenge or to solve a particular opportunity that a client has, there might be a little bit of learning or a little bit of, refreshing of something that maybe you knew in the past, but it's going to need to be kind of recouped, as it were, and sort of got back up to speed. Is it okay to be vulnerable in that way in terms of professionally?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Uh, among my personal mantras is nobody likes to know it all, and I don't. I think most people don't like know-it-alls. I now I openly admit if I'm feeling stressed or pressure or too much going on, I'll say I need some downtime. I just need some downtime, and I will, as I say, I'll go sit on my patio and talk to the squirrels or talk to the tree or something. So I have the confidence to say that, and I know that after 10 minutes of downtime, I'm good to go again. I've also, over the years, I've also learned, picked up some meditation. And meditation is just amazing. So it is okay to do that. And I'm finding that, and maybe because people say, oh, this is he's weird, so we'll cope with it. But hey, so if it works, it works. But I think vulnerability is okay, because when you say you're vulnerable, first of all, it means you don't have all the answers. You're open to help, and you never know how helpful people can be. You never know where help is going to come from. I was talking with a friend, oh, I guess last week, and he was talking about how helpful and friendly people in Toronto are. And I was laughing and saying, we're not supposed to be like that. According to the rest of Canada, we're awful. People don't like us. But the point of the story there was that if you show vulnerability and trustworthiness, it doesn't matter. People will help. People will have your back. I found living downtown and busy. We've got people from every country in the world living in Toronto, and consistently, people are friendly and helpful. Even if we don't speak the same language, they're friendly and helpful. Now I try to give out good vibes. I try to be positive. I try to be respectful and that kind of, and it invariably comes back to me. So you know, I think there's a difference between being vulnerable and being helpless. I think a lot of people choose to be helpless and want to be helped. And there again, they don't want to take responsibility for their own well-being. So maybe if I'm helpless, that will be an excuse for my current situation. I'm okay being vulnerable because it means I'm ready to learn. And man, the day I stop learning is the day. I don't know. I'm a lifelong learner, and I'm just constantly learning. So I set up opportunities to learn, which is almost as important as dealing with immediate issues. So I think it's okay to be vulnerable. Yeah, I'm open to help from anybody that wants to help me. I don't have all the answers. Barack Obama used to say that he liked being the dumbest guy in the room, and there's some value to that. So yeah, I'm okay with being vulnerable.
So, a lot of what you're practicing here, Larry, it sounds like the law of attraction. You are looking to put out there the way that you are looking to be treated and respected and kind of, yeah, really valued. Is it the law of attraction that we're working on here?
Big time, bingo. Yeah, it is. It really is. Um, the first time I heard about the law of attraction, I was interested, and I remember thinking, okay, let's say I wanted to be an NHL hockey player, and so I just being a bit of a jerk, I played with a lot of attraction, and so see, I can't do it. I mean, my age and condition, I could never do it. But when I got off my high horse and really thought it through and started to really unbundle what it's all about, it's not just law of attraction. It's not just sitting dreaming of something and having the angels and the genies just deliver it to you on a tray. It's a case of visualizing what you want, and then as Jack Canfield says, taking inspired action. It's not just wishing something to be done. It's taking hard inspired action. And yeah, sometimes we get the results we want sooner than we expect, and sometimes it takes a lot longer. Sometimes we're sending confusing signals out. Sometimes we don't really know what we want. So yeah, it's a law of attraction. It's a law of attraction plays a big part in my work. My book has I think there's a couple of chapters on it. I'm working on a video course that has 2 chapters on law of attraction. So I think that's so important because it strips away so much baloney, so much nonsense, so much hype, and allows us to really tap into the environment. And I'm also a fairly spiritual person, so I like to connect with a higher power, which would be the universe. Some people are uncomfortable with spirituality. That's okay. I mean, the universe is there, like it or not, it's there, and we're going to be more successful if we connect with it and if we fight with it. So yeah, it's a law of attraction. Yeah, and I think I've internalized it without consciously doing so. It's just become part of the way I do things.
And it's at those moments when you just realize, yes, I'm definitely onto something. If anybody's listening to this and you think, oh, yeah, law of attraction, I don't believe in that, try walking down your street and smile at a stranger. See what happens, because I will guarantee you will get that smile returned. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it's the simplest, most obvious example that I certainly know for people who are, let's just call it non-believers in the whole law of attraction thing, because it's addictive, it's infectious. You cannot not
Oh,
smile back to somebody who smiles at you.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And it's just once 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 I became aware of the law of attraction, I started talking about it more openly, and I have some family and friends were kind of non-believers, and then they started telling me about coincidences that were happening in their lives that they were thinking about a friend, and the friend called them or something. And I'm saying, well, maybe it was law of attraction, or maybe it was coincidence. Who knows? I like to think it was law of attraction. I like to think it was me putting a message out there to the universe. I would like to connect with so and so, and if it makes sense, and the stars are aligned and everything is right, yeah, it'll happen. Maybe not on our time frame, it'll happen. And you're right with a smile. I mean, if you want to give a smile, if you want to get a smile, give a smile. If you want to have somebody bitch to you, bitch to them because they're going to bitch back.
They most certainly are. The most profound thing I think you've said today, but you've said so much, Larry, that's so good. And I would love to be now connecting everyone listening to this to your work. So your ebooks, your videos, your courses, your books, everything. LarryEasto.com, is that where people should head?
That's a good place to go. Just a couple of words on that. What I've done with the website, instead of just setting it up as another information dump or storage or archives, I tried to make it fairly interactive. So it's set up so that I think there's 5 or 6 questions there. It's been a while since I looked at it, but there's 5 or 6 questions there, and the purpose of it is to help visitors identify one thing they can do that would make a difference in their business. And for example, if you want to plan your business and grow your business, click here. If you want a marketing breakthrough, click here. If you want to learn more about marketing, click here. And there's also at the bottom, there's a link to my book, which is How to Succeed in Your Professional Service Business. And there's also a link to a thank you gift for anyone who hears a podcast and goes to the website. The thank you gift is a copy of my book, 26 Ways for Service Professionals to Get New Business. Now, that all changes on January the 1st. And there's 6 courses that are half price until the end of the year. January the 1st will be a new transformation course up there, and the special pricing on the video courses is gone, so there'll be regular pricing there, and there will be two thank you gifts. One will be the Get New Business, and one will be, I've got a name for it yet, but it's going to be all part of transformation, part of personal transformation. So yeah, there's good stuff there, and also there's a link to connect directly with me on the website.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Larry, for all of those, both gifts, but also your wisdom today. I mean, there's a real clarity by which, you clearly operate and work. And it does feel like, even just through this brief conversation that we've had, that, the real you is in the heart of everything that you're doing. So, I thank you for that, because I think the world needs more people operating in this kind of way. It's not just about the commerce. It's about actually being human, isn't it?
Thank you. I do these things automatically, and I never really know whether they're working, but it feels right to me. So I continue doing it. So I appreciate your comments, because it's not the kind of thing people normally say. So I appreciate your giving me the feedback on it. I'll keep doing it. I'll keep doing it. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Larry.